Sarah and Ben met when they were in high school. They were both from the same small town, though they lived in very different worlds. Sarah was the quiet, bookish girl who loved to read in the local library and was always lost in her thoughts. Ben, on the other hand, was the outgoing, athletic type who was well-liked and often surrounded by friends. Despite their differences, there was something about their personalities that complemented each other perfectly. It was during their senior year that their paths crossed. Sarah had just returned a book to the library when she bumped into Ben, who had been on his way out. The book she dropped was one of his favorites, and that moment sparked the beginning of their relationship. He joked about her choice of literature, and she laughed, rolling her eyes, which caught his attention. Ben, intrigued by her intelligence and shy demeanor, asked her to dinner the next weekend. From that point on, they were inseparable. Their relationship grew stronger over the months. Despite the subtle challenges they faced, Ben's friends often teased him about dating the quiet, studious girl, while Sarah had a hard time adjusting to the attention he received for being the star athlete. Yet, when they were together, none of that mattered. They found comfort in each other's company, their worlds perfectly aligned when they were together. The summer after graduation, Ben and Sarah made plans for the future. They had talked about attending college together in a nearby city, staying close, and building a life filled with love and adventure. But life, as it often does, presented them with a challenge. Ben received a scholarship offer to a prestigious university far from home, one that would shape his future career. Sarah, while devastated, encouraged him to take it, knowing it was an opportunity he couldn't pass up. They promised each other that their love would endure, despite the distance. They wrote letters, called each other every night, and visited whenever possible. But as the years went by, their lives began to change in ways they hadn't anticipated. Ben was thriving in college, forming new friendships, experiencing the excitement of independence, and pursuing his dreams. Sarah, on the other hand, had started a career in a local art gallery and had grown more independent herself. Slowly, the phone calls became less frequent, and the visits grew further apart. One day, Sarah received a phone call from Ben. His voice, once so familiar and comforting, now sounded distant. He explained that he had met someone else, someone who lived closer to him, and that he felt they had grown apart over the years. It was a heartbreaking conversation. Sarah didn't know what to say, but she understood. She knew that sometimes love, no matter how strong, couldn't withstand the test of time and distance. They both cried that night, mourning the loss of what they had, but they both agreed to move on. Over the years that followed, they both found their way. Ben married the woman he had met in college, and Sarah threw herself into her art, becoming well known in the local community for her exhibitions. They each built separate lives, full of friends, careers, and personal growth. But every once in a while, when Sarah passed a familiar street corner or Ben saw a book he remembered sharing with her, the memories would come rushing back. There was always a lingering, quiet space in their hearts, a place only the other could fill. It wasn't until 10 years later that their paths crossed again. Sarah was attending an art event in the city when she spotted Ben, now standing across the room, his familiar smile lighting up the room. He had changed. He was older, with a few more lines on his face, but his eyes still carried that same warmth. They locked eyes for a moment, and everything else faded away. After the event, they met for coffee. The conversation began awkwardly, but soon the years of silence fell away. They shared stories of their lives, of the joys and struggles they had experienced. Ben told her about his divorce, how the relationship he thought was going to last forever had ultimately ended. Sarah talked about the quiet loneliness she had felt, even while surrounded by people, realizing that she had never really stopped loving him. They both acknowledged how much they had changed, how much they had learned about themselves and the world around them. But one thing remained unchanged. The love they had shared was still there, as strong as it had ever been. This time, they didn't make promises about the future. They didn't know what the next chapter would hold, but they agreed to take it one step at a time. They slowly reconnected, rediscovered each other, and over time, the love that had never really gone away grew stronger. The distance and the years that had once driven them apart now seemed insignificant compared to the bond they had. 5 years later, on the same street corner where they had once said goodbye, Ben asked Sarah to marry him. She said yes, her heart full, knowing that this time they were ready. Their love, tested by time, distance, and life's unpredictable turns, had come full circle. It was no longer about the grand gestures. but about the quiet moments of understanding, the shared history, and the unconditional support they gave each other. Their marriage was not the fairy tale of young love, but rather a story of resilience. Sarah and Ben's love had endured because it was grounded in mutual respect, shared experiences, and the understanding that sometimes love is not about always being together, but about coming back to each other when the time is right. Their story became a testament to the idea that true love doesn't always happen on the first try, nor does it follow a straight path. Sometimes, love is about finding your way back to each other after years apart, understanding that the bond you share is stronger than time, distance, and all the obstacles life throws your way. And in the end, that love is the kind that lasts forever.